You know, one of the most intimidating parts of an old bike restoration can be the fork seals. They're old, they're leaky, the dust boots can be cracked, and a lot of people don't know how to take them apart. But actually, it can be very simple. And honestly, it's the same as a bike like this. Even though there's 30 years difference between these bikes, the forks come apart almost identically. So let's get started.
As with any bike, you're going to have to take the forks off. And most often you're going to have to remove the handlebars to get to the top bolts and the top fork caps. And as you can see, these forks are really rusty and the fork seals have been leaking a lot. So first thing I'm going to do is take the spring out because I've already taken the fork caps off. And on older style forks, you can have a little drain screw on the bottom or on the side. I really like this. Kind of wish modern forks had this. And you'll see in this one, the fork, it has been sitting outside and the oil has gotten water in it and it's congealed and these weren't really working. This one's pretty bad. If you see the water coming out, that's not good. And then the next thing is to take the dust seal off. Do it any means possible. We're going to replace these. So just using a screwdriver and prying it up off the lip. Now what's a little bit unique about these early 70s and late 60s bike is this is the retainer that keeps the inner fork leg in. Now I'm going to show in the next shot how most conventional forks come apart with a damper bolt that holds the damper rod in, and that's what holds the forks together. So you use the appropriate Allen wrench, is usually what it is, and take it out, and then the forks will easily slide apart. And there's the damper rod right there, and then there's a retaining clip if you want to take that out. Nope, we just pull the inner tube out, and there's the bushing on this style of forks, and there's a little snap ring that holds it from going down, and that retainer is what holds the fork together. And then it comes up and over the damper rod, and we pull this one out. Kind of came out a little hard because there was that water in there, so there was a little bit of corrosion. And then we'll have to clean that all out and clean these up before we want to do anything else with these forks. And now it's time to get the seal out. Of course, the seal is housed in this retainer, so you can use a punch or a screwdriver or any way to get these out. Now on other forks, more modern conventional forks, you're going to want to pry them out with a screwdriver or a seal puller, any way you can get them out. You're not going to reuse them, so it doesn't matter if you tear them up. Just do not nick the little inside mating surface that you're going to reinstall the seal into. And you can see on the more modern conventional forks is you have to take a snap ring out, and then with a small pry bar, screwdriver, you can just pull it out. They should come out really easy. Now this is an optional step, but because these forks, I'm restoring this bike, now's a good time to clean them up and repaint them. If yours are in great shape, you can skip this step and move right on to reassembly. But I wanted to clean these up. We're going to put a nice coat of paint on, and they're going to look brand new. Now it's time to reinstall the new seals. And it doesn't really matter how you do it, if you have a seal driver or a socket that's the right size. I didn't happen to have the right size seal driver for these seals, so this socket will work. And you'll see I have to change to a different size socket to get it seated all the way home. You want it seated all the way down to the shoulder. And then on more modern conventional forks, you're going to put that snap ring right back in, and that will help retain them. Now it's time for reassembly. We're going to put the damper rod in the reverse order that everything came out. Put the inner fork tube in, and make sure we seat that bushing. If this fork was any more worn out, I would probably replace all these parts, but I was able to salvage these, and you'll see that towards the end of the video. Reinstall the spring. It sits on top of the damper rod in this situation. And now we need to reinstall this retaining clip. Now, if you have more conventional forks, you're going to do this the other way, is you're going to just put the inner fork rod through the seal. The main thing here is you want to carefully get this onto the inner fork leg so you don't tear the seal. That's why we lubricated it with a little fork oil. And in this case, we just screw it back down, and hand tight is good enough in this application. And then lastly, we put our dust boot on, or our dust seal, and just snap it right in. Now for this process of refilling. Now, different forks will require different amounts of oil, and check your service manual, because some of them it's a specific quantity and some of it is a specific fluid level, and you have to use a special tool with a syringe to do that. It'll be outlined in your service manual. This one, we just pour it and fill it up. Now, in this case, you can see I am filling it very slowly because there's a small orifice in the damper rod that this oil has to travel through to get to the bottom of the fork. If you just dump it all in, it will overflow, and you'll see that right here. And then I had to let it settle down, and then I could pour the rest in. In this case, these forks took 146 milliliters of fluid.
Well, that's all there is to it. You can just put your fork caps on, put them back on the bike, and you're ready to ride. And if you liked how-to videos like this, or you want to see more of the restoration of this bike or other bikes I've restored, check out my website, link in the description. Get subscribed. Also, become a channel member. It helps me make more of these videos, fund some of these projects, and I appreciate it, and thanks for watching.
But wait, there's more. Now, I wanted to show how I cleaned up these forks. And a lot of this was just surface rust, so it looks a lot worse than it is. There was a little pitting, but it was underneath where the headlight mounting shrouds go, and there was really no damage or pitting where the seal rides. I've seen a lot worse, and doing this, shined them all up, and they're ready to go. And any good video needs some sandblasting content. Anyway, get subscribed, become a channel member, and again, thanks for watching.